was a child growing up in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, in the country, there was a spring on our property. And my grandfather and I would get water out of the spring, dipping it up by the bucketful, to take it to the garden, which was nearby, and water the tomato plants and the rows of corn in the dry months of summer, and an especially dry summer. And I became fascinated by the way that the spring was constantly refilled. It always flowed, just miraculously to me. And then as I grew a little bit older, I began to follow that stream that came out of the spring. One day I emerged at the end of the stream where it emptied into the Ohio River, which at that time was the largest barge floating cesspool in America. And I got a very clear idea there at a very early age of just what a river should be and what it shouldn't. And I think I carried that kind of impression with me. We are 70% water. And so we literally are the rivers and the groundwater sources, which are, of course, inextricably connected to the rivers. So we are what we drink, and we drink from the rivers. And so, of course, we need the rivers for our own sustenance, for the food that we grow, for the work that we do, for the communities that we live in. Beyond that, every living creature depends on water, and essentially on rivers. So if we're in a community of life here on Earth, if we're in this together, we have to recognize that our rivers are important to everything else that lives as well. One of my summer jobs when I was in college was as a seasonal landscape architect in Sawtooth Valley for the National Forest Service. And so I lived up there at the Sawtooth Valley Ranger Station, almost on the banks of the Salmon River, almost at its source. And in the evenings I'd go out hiking or running along that stream, and it was paradise to me. I mean, take a kid from the Appalachian foothills and transplant him to the source of the Salmon River, and he thinks he's gone to heaven, as he probably has. I had done a couple of books about rivers elsewhere, including California, and I wanted to write about a river in the Rocky Mountains. And I considered the Salmon because it's my favorite, and it's the longest river that's substantially undammed, just one tiny dam at a fish hatchery at the headwaters. But in a way, the Salmon was a little bit too easy, because it's reasonably well protected, it's reasonably undamaged today. The Snake River was really a lot more interesting in terms of writing a book. I tried to tell the story of what is happening to this river. And it was quickly evident to me in doing the research that no one really knew. There was no authority on the whole river. I knew people who met people who knew inside and out what was happening to a particular place or around a particular issue, farmers and irrigators who knew their farm or their irrigation system, wildlife biologists who knew a particular refuge or park or species of animal or bird, but really nobody who knew the whole thing. And so it was just fascinating to put that piece together, to put all those pieces together into an organic whole and begin to explain how they related to one another, how the river begins, it grows to be as large as the Delaware River, and then suddenly it's all gone. It's totally diverted at Milner Dam into 3 giant canals, almost a bone-dry riverbed left. How can that happen? What are the effects of that? Why? Who pays for it? Who pays? I discovered there were great myths about the Snake River and about water in Idaho. And so I began investigating those and talking to people about them, and felt that it was just very enlightening to learn all that I did. And so I became a bit obsessed about trying to explain this to other people. We have an amazing natural environment still remaining, even several hundred years after the first white settlement of this region. There's still incredible wild natural places left. And those have become remarkably scarce in our society, in our country today. They're a little more plentiful in Idaho, so it's easy to take them for granted here, but remarkably scarce when we look at our country overall, and even within Idaho now. And so what we have left is really worth protecting. We still have remarkable opportunities to restore some of what has been lost and to more efficiently use what is left. And I think we simply have to do that if we're going to face a future with optimism, with something to give to the next generation. We've got to do a better job at the way we use water, at the way we take care of our wild places and all the other creatures on Earth, at the way we feed ourselves, and the way we grow food, and the way we develop land, all of these issues, the way we produce energy, all of these questions, we can do a much better job at. And in writing about the Snake River, I really realized that in a very abundant way. Learn about your river, join an organization. Once you learn something, teach others, especially your children, without passing on a sense of stewardship, really a sense of love of the land and the rivers to the next generation. We're going to lose. And so we have to do that with our kids. And kids, so many kids today don't have that contact with the natural world that they used to have. So it's incredibly important, I think, to take your children out into the natural world, experience it, enjoy it, see it, learn about it. Only then will we care about it.